It's a new year. 2023 is here. Putting on my list of minis. Newsies and let's cheers. Let's talk about the future. Let's talk about the past. Time to get on the Not Your Average Joel podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Not Your Average Joel. So today we are in the middle of season 3, and so far season 3 has been going great. New year and new topics, and I've had some new guests, and I've had some past guests that have come back. Which, speaking of a past guest, we do have a past guest here with us. This is Jeffin. This is his second time here, and it's good having him here back, and especially about a topic that he's very passionate about, which I'll tell y'all here in a little bit what it's about. But before I tell y'all, I want to welcome him back and thank you for being on the channel again.
Thank you so much for Joe for having me. It's been great. I miss you guys. I can't wait to do another podcast with you.
And yes, absolutely. And this one's definitely going to be a really interesting one, even for me, and I hope for you viewers as well, because for this topic, I'm not super familiar with this topic. This is something that I'm going to be doing a lot of listening with when it comes to this topic, because it's just something that I haven't really invested my time in doing as much research with this topic. So in case if you notice that I'm not talking as much, I still will put in my feedback and stuff like that. But in case if you notice that I'm not saying as much to these questions that I had for Jeff, and you'll know why now at this point. So I guess I'll go ahead and tell everybody what this is about. Today's topic of the day is going to be about being financially smart. So, I mean, I know a little bit about finances. I took maybe a class in high school, maybe regarding finances, but we only got maybe one semester, which is a few months worth. And then once I got into college, I took economics, but I almost just took it just because, I mean, you learn it, you study it, and then you just want to pass that class, and then it just kind of flies right out of my mind. So I think being financially smart is super important, and it's definitely something that I definitely need to apply to my life. So I'm definitely going to be learning a lot out of this, and I hope that you viewers learn a lot about this too, because from what I've seen from Jeffin's posts on social media. This is part of what he does for a living. So, I think that it's super important to get somebody that's a little bit more has a lot more knowledge in this than I do. So, I definitely don't want to give no bad advice or no anything that will steer anybody in the wrong direction. So, I think it's important to talk about a topic like this, and for me to learn something out of this. So I think I'm going to go ahead and get into this first question. So since we're young people here nowadays, we're in our 20s, and there's people in their 30s, that are I consider them young too. So come on over 30s, you're the young ones. So there's a lot of mistakes that we make early on in life when we're younger. Once we get out of college, or even once you start college, you start making decisions when it comes to money. So, and there may be many answers to this question. So if you have many answers, you can provide that. But my question is going to be, what is the biggest mistake that you see younger people make when it comes to their finances?
Great question. Thank you so much, Joe. So basically, when it comes to financial planning, it really comes down to how early you want to start. So when I was very young, right? 18 years old, actually 16 years old, right? Started working, right? Started receiving a paycheck. And I started to create a habit of putting at least $100 away for my future, because at this point, we actually come to a point where we don't have the proper financial education. If we don't save at a younger age, when we get older, it'll be too late, because if you look at the numbers, it's basically when you put aside a little bit amount of money, little by little, that little by little is going to add up to a big amount. And then you can figure out where you want to put it. There's so many different products and services out there today that you can leverage and you can actually multiply your money while you retire. Right now, the millennials, the Gen Zs, and all of our generation, we're at a point where the baby boomers are retiring and they wish they saved more money when they were in their 20s, right? And their 30s. And, you can't go back in time. But when you're young, I really hope that you have an account or something that you could put money away that actually can exponentially grow. Then of course, when you start to have that habit, it's okay. Then maybe you can sit down with a financial professional, right? And you can kind of see like, hey, like I have this much amount of money in this account. What are my options, right? What are things that I can do for my future? Um, I think once we know that idea, there's so many accounts. You can even Google them if you like. You could even do like private meetings with financial advisors. But some of them do charge you like $300 an hour, but or more. But some of them, they do complimentary and things like that, where you can look at your options. But basically, to answer that question, one line, one word, I would say save now, right? And really be able to kind of, even if it's $50 a month or $500 a month, or whatever your financial situation is, you can put away a little bit now, and it actually grow for your future nest egg.
Okay, nice. See, so that's something that like I definitely have not done. So I'm definitely
Yeah.
falling into one of those like mistakes because I think like when you're younger, you start like like it's a 16 when you start your first job and you start making money and then you're like, you want to spend all your money, you want to go hang out with
Yep.
your friends, you want to go do all of these different things. And then even when it comes to college, like, there's some more responsibilities. Like some people move into dorms and have roommates and
Right.
have all of these other things that ties into things and even like get into travel too. So
Right.
I think that's something that I know it's never too late to start, but I
Absolutely.
just think
Absolutely.
that like a regret that I guess I have and that I wish I would have done earlier in life, when I was 16 is that I would have started saving money like longer ago. Like I think once I
Right.
started getting a bank account, like I did have a savings account, but then I think eventually I took the money out of my savings account.
Yeah. Yeah.
So and I
That's what
wish I
happens. Yeah.
didn't.
Yeah, like the basically the biggest mistake is not saving. That's the only thing. So even when you're young, it's okay to go out, it's okay to travel, it's okay to do that. But once we create a habit, like a muscle memory, when we get a paycheck, we put away like minimum like 30% away. And you can work with that other 70%. And that is a lot of amount of money, but you don't want to blow the 100%. And at the end of the day, you have nothing. But in the beginning, you want to create a habit where that muscle memory, it's like, okay, I get a paycheck every 2 weeks, and I'm going to put 30% of that paycheck away, away, away. So, even if you didn't start earlier, it's okay. You can start now, right?
Yeah, exactly. I love that. That like yeah, it gets you. It's never too late to start better habits. When it comes to spending and saving for sure. So I think that's
Absolutely.
really important to point out. So for you viewers, if you're younger than me, I'm right now 29. If you're younger than 29, I think I highly suggest getting into having a savings account, even if it's a small amount of money, because like
Yep.
Jeffin said, at the end of the day, it will it will grow, like
Exactly.
exponentially. So I think it's super important to start saving, even if you just take like $10. Like if you
Yep.
get paid weekly, $10, put that in your and don't touch that, and
Yep.
and have that for whenever like you really, really need it, not when you need it for like to go get a good meal somewhere. Like I mean,
Right. Yeah. Of course.
hopefully that's in your other side of things, but
Right. Right.
so yeah, just don't
Like,
try to spend up
yeah.
every penny that you have.
Exactly. Yeah, like so there's also accounts where you can set it aside and you don't need to touch it. Like it could be separate from your bank and you can do it where it's not like because the thing is with the savings and checking, it's right there. So you can literally transfer the money. And when you start transferring it, it's just start going down, down, down. So besides that, another recommendation is basically putting into another fund where it can grow and invest and you don't worry about it. And every month, once a month, you move it aside into that account. And I mean, I'm so glad that when I was young, like I listened to that advice, and even older too. Even I mean, when I sit down with clients nowadays, when we look at their financial overview, some of them are in their 60s and they still have no savings, and that is very scary, right? And And they were like, Jeff, like I really wish I can, I could go back in time and at least put like a couple $100 a month away, and that can actually accumulate now. And yeah, I mean, in the future, you don't want to be that person where you have to keep going back to work and you have to keep like paying the bills, but you have to have that comfort, right? So that's how highly recommended. So basically creating a muscle memory. It's like we eat every day, we brush our teeth every day. Why don't we save every day, right? So
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, like I like how you say just almost make that like like a second nature kind of thing,
exactly,
put that into
exactly.
our minds, like
Right.
that's something that we need to practice each and every day, and it will take us far in life.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, so I think that's a really good answer. So, my next question that I have is in regards to credit cards. So, I can admit that I do have a couple of credit cards, but I'm just wondering from like a financially, someone that works in the finances, do you see credit cards, like, do you see any kind of pros when it comes to credit cards, or do you see credit cards as just something that we really should avoid getting?
Gotcha. Great question. Two things with credit cards. Number one rule in credit card business is really you want to avoid debt no matter what. Because, not to step on anybody's toes, but these big companies and banks, they want you to have credit card because that's the only way they can charge big amounts of interest rates. And it's kind of sad because, you're 18 years old, you go to a college fair, and they're going to give you a slice of pizza and make sure you sign up for a credit card. That is how crazy it is, right? Like because these big companies they know that, hey, you're 18 right now, or you're young, you're in college. Let me let's sign you up a credit card, right? And we get into a habit of swiping the plastic so much that we just get lost track of time and everything, and our debt becomes bigger. Now the cons about that is really you don't want to be in debt no matter, right? You don't want to be in debt, but if you have to be in a situation where, maybe a couple months, try to pay it off everything you have, right? And if you spend it, like you want to be able to make sure that you don't worry about like the remaining balance. That really going to affect your credit score. Then eventually when you buy a house, a car, it goes down. Now the pros really, if you're someone who likes to travel, who likes to stay in hotels, right? Everybody know they have a point system, right? If you spend, but then again, you got to spend like double to redeem that points. That's also you're in a loop of things. You're back into the debt and everything like that. But number one rule, get out of debt, right? Number one rule, pay everything off. But even then, when you're young, it's understandable. But when you start a family, when you want to buy a house and everything like that, they look at your credit score, and even if they don't have any debt, you don't need to worry about it at credit score at all because you can literally you're clear. But of course, everybody is not perfect, right? But credit cards are good for building points, credit score, and so on and so forth. And at the same time, you want to be able to avoid it, but you don't want to be in the loop of swiping the card every single day and spending money like that, and just because of some little bit of points. It's like if you spend $100, you get like 1 point or something like that. I don't know. It's crazy out there, right? So you don't want to you don't want to be in that loop of keep swiping and kind of go. Hopefully that answers a little bit of question.
Yeah, it most definitely does because the reason why I bring this up is because of like my personal experience with this. So, like I mentioned before I asked the question, I do have a couple of credit cards. And I think like at the beginning, like when I was younger, when I got these credit cards, like probably good like 7, 8 years ago, whenever that was, whenever the case may have been, like I did have the habit of, using my credit card because it's almost like tempting when you see like, oh my gosh, you have like this amount of money and you can just spend it, and then like you start doing it and then you realize like, oh crap, you got to pay that off
Yeah.
like each
Yeah, it
month. So
started. Yeah, it started with a couple $100. Then you get into the thousands. Oh man, it's just, and they charge you so much interest, and that's the sad part, right? It's like 25% interest, like and that's ridiculous out there, right? And if you're someone who have multiple credit cards, definitely pay off the highest interest rate and work your way down because that highest interest rate is going to really eat up your credit, and it's going to really take it down. So if you have like a couple multiple different credit card, pay off the highest interest rate and work your way down basically.
yeah,
But yeah, I
yeah.
mean, these are just basic information that I want to share today with the viewers and everybody. So that way, of course, if you want to know more information, you can definitely talk to somebody, or definitely have a like talk to a financial professional or somebody that's licensed in any state.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's super important to get involved with somebody like a financial planner or something like that to
Exactly.
kind of help you, especially at a younger age when like we're not as I guess as knowledgeable or like
Right.
have that kind of wisdom when it comes to these areas. So I think it's like good to have, even though like you become a little bit more independent, you start making your
Absolutely.
own money, but it still doesn't hurt to have like a dependency of somebody on somebody that has a little bit more of an expertise in this
Exactly.
area.
Exactly.
So there's definitely no shame in that.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Like, I didn't come from a financial background, but I come from like military and government like type of field. And I came into the financial industry because I know the lack of like financial literacy is not there. It's illiterate. Most of us are illiterate. So I decided about more than about 10 years now as a whole, like been licensed and everything, where I want to be able to kind of help my family first. So I was like, you know what? Let me get into it, and let me learn like how all these credit cards, bank, mortgage, this, that. There's so much. It's a big space, in the being so financially smart. As we get older, we have to learn so many different things. But being able to it's hard to sit there and study the whole thing, right? But if you work with somebody and if you know how to properly manage it, then you should be good to go. But definitely, you're absolutely right. In the beginning, everybody's lost, right?
Yeah, we really are. Like we start like looking at like, oh yes, like look at this. It's almost like free money basically. It's like, well, not exactly. It's almost like you
Exactly.
you fall into like you're under their like reins now. It's
Yeah.
like we're
Yeah.
now like tied to them and like oh we owe them money and but when you first see that money you're like, oh my gosh, this is a lot of money. I get to spend it, or
Spend it.
swipe the credit
Right.
card and I don't know if you've ever seen this, but like as I think about like this show called The Proud Family that was
Uh-huh.
on Disney Channel,
Okay.
and I feel like there was an episode on that on there where I think like the main character was like using this credit card, like just swiping and swiping and swiping, and like then like it ended up getting in trouble, I think because it was like the parents' credit card.
Oh, wow.
And
Okay.
like I think like she owed like a bunch of money. I don't know
Ooh.
why I thought about that and I almost related to my own life because not that I'm using my parents' credit card, but like using my own credit card. And like at one point I did have it to where like had my cards fully paid off. It was a couple of
Okay.
years
Right.
ago.
Right. Yeah.
But in the past couple of years, I kind of made two big purchases,
Oh,
and
okay.
it
Okay.
kind of put me into a deeper, I guess, into a deeper financial
Right.
like
Right. Right.
struggle.
No, absolutely.
So I guess
Absolutely.
I'm currently trying to get out of that, and I'm
Okay.
hoping here in the next few months, if I just keep making big payments, that
Right.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
eventually it's going to
Absolutely.
go away. So yeah, even these like moments that I went through in the past couple of years, it's definitely been a learning experience for
Absolutely.
sure.
Absolutely.
So yeah, all we can do, I guess, is learn in those moments and just learn to not make those same mistakes again.
Exactly. Because I'm gonna tell you guys a secret. Because if you take the number 72 and if you divide, it's crazy. And this is Albert Einstein is actually fond for it. And what he said was, if you take the interest rate and if you divide that by 72, it will let you know how fast your debt will double.
Hmm.
So let's do an example. Let's say you have $10,000 like debt, right? Then that debt is at 9%. Let's say, right, like the interest rate. Basically, if you take 72 divided by 9, every 8 years, that 10,000 will double.
Hmm. Wow. Whoa.
That's his rule. When I
Yeah.
heard that, I'm like, oh, that is crazy. Because so any it doesn't matter if it's car, if it's mortgage, if you take that 72%, I mean 72, number 72, it's called the rule of 72, by the way. If you can even Google it. Take the number 72 and divide it by your interest rate, and you'll know, you'll be shocked. You're like, oh crap, I need to get rid of this ASAP.
Yes, most definitely. I've never heard of that rule, so that's a
Yeah.
very interesting like
Yeah.
rule to kind of go by, and I think it definitely makes me want to pay off my debt
Yeah.
now. So moving on to my next question, I know like one big mistake, I guess kind of going back to the first question as far as mistakes, but like one big mistake I see people make is like they usually end up buying stuff that they want when in reality it's like it's not something that they need. I feel like maybe I may have learned that at one point. Like there's a difference between like paying like spending money on something that you want versus something that you need.
That's right.
So I was just curious, is there like, no, I know there's, we don't live in a perfect world, but is there almost like a perfect financial world out there to where you can like have the best of both worlds to where you can have what you want and at the same time have what you need?
Okay. So that comes down to like the way the cost of living and what city you're in, everything like that, right? Because if you think about it, the need is probably higher in the East Coast or in the West Coast than the East Coast. Now, when you want to live like that, so of course, we want to always treat ourselves. If you're in a very crunch type of like paycheck to paycheck type of lifestyle, then you don't really have a lot of options because you have to make money, then you have to pay spend it. I mean, I'm sorry, you have to spend take care of your bills. And that your bills are your needs because you gotta eat, you gotta, live good. And one of the main thing it's like wants is subscriptions. Like, why do you need to have Netflix and Amazon Prime, like Amazon movies or whatever? I forgot what it was called. Then you have, you have Disney Plus. You want all of these things, but you're not gonna watch all of that at once. You know what I mean? So maybe you got to figure out where the way that somebody's living right now is that, of course, the needs come first, right? No, that's number one priority. I have to, right? Otherwise, you can't be, you can't be watching Disney Plus and not having anything to eat, right? So, but then at the same time, you want to make sure that your family is taken care of. Then the wants will come. There's not really the more money you can make, then probably the wants would be 50-50, right? It's like the ratio of the 80% should be the needs and 20% should be the wants. Then when you make more money, that ratio will level out. It could be 50-50, right? You don't have to like stretch every dollar bill, basically, right? So that, you could be, if somebody who's making less than 50,000 or more than 50,000, even 100,000 in now in America, 100,000 is becoming the 50,000 now, and it's crazy, right? As we get older, oh man, it's not going to be worth it. I mean, inflation is high right now, so the wants and everything and the needs, like, you want to be like prioritize what's important to you, then manage it accordingly because you don't want to break your bank.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that's some really good advice because I think like kind of going back to the whole younger generation or even like when I was younger, you start looking at stuff that like you want and then
Right.
like in reality that money that like you spent on like your little paycheck that you get it really could have gone to things that you needed in life instead of the things that you wanted.
Uh-huh.
So I think that's just it's almost like a temptation in a way that happens for us whenever like you see something that you like, oh, I want that PS5, but it's like, do you need that PS5 or do you really need to, do put it towards something that you actually do need? So
Exactly.
I
See.
think, like these teenagers or even young adults, like, everybody that's like, well, I need this game, like I
Yeah. Yeah.
need this, but it's like actually technically it's not a need, it's a
Right.
want.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, so I mean, then you gotta. I mean, I would say once or twice a month, you can go out and have a nice dinner. You can go like blow some money, but don't do it every weekend. You're blowing like 300, $400 on a weekend, and it's kind of it kind of like then you look at your bill and you look at your credit card. You're like, well, I want to go out this weekend, but then again, like I have like a $5,000 credit card, but I still want to go out. So you got to be able to make sure that you're on a like a because that 5,000 is gonna be there until you pay it off, right? Going out, you can plan it for next weekend and without breaking your bank. You can skip every other weekend, or you can you gotta figure out how can you customize it to your life and your bank, because that's where everything is, right? The foundation of your life is your bank, basically. How much money you make, no, how much money is in your bank is what basically how you live your life, right? So if you have a lot of money and you don't do anything with it, then you might be somebody who wants to like not spend too much, and that's still okay, right? But being able to having that like want versus need, I mean, it's always going to be a battle, you know?
Yeah, yeah, they could still be a battle even as you get older. Like you maybe start making more money, you're thinking, oh, like maybe I can buy this
Exactly.
now. But it's like could it go towards you paying off your debt instead of
Exactly.
you trying to pay for something, nice and shiny over there that you may actually want. But so
Exactly.
it's like you said, making those kind of decisions and or even like you said, as far as going out, like trying to
Right.
make that
Right.
like trying to make those decisions, like maybe like not go out every week,
Right. Right.
maybe, stay in. And, even like that was an example that I have kind of like a quick example that actually just happened here yesterday.
Okay.
So like a few weeks ago, like me and some of my friends, like we haven't really gotten together in a while because of like just busyness with life and all that. So we were thinking of like something to do and we were starting to think of like fun different ideas, but then we realized like the cost of some of these things, as
Oh
fun as they
yeah.
would be, are
Terrible.
expensive. Like,
Terrible. Oh, it's
yeah,
crazy. Even a meal now, like before, you can get a meal, soda and chips or cookies or whatever under like $10. Oh man, now forget about it. Like forget about it. It's
yeah,
like double that. Like
yeah,
you get let's say you get a like Chipotle, and you get, I mean, it's all over TikTok, and they're like, and I was like, I'm done with Chipotle. It's just I can cook rice, I can make some beans and chicken. Like it's really not that big of a deal, right? And it really comes out to like $25 for one bowl and all the queso and all of this. I mean, nothing wrong with Chipotle, but I'm just saying, like, you don't need to spend $30. So if you just do simple math, right? If you take every day you go outside your home and you're like, you know what? How many times do I pay with my card or take out my wallet or take out my Apple Pay or whatever? Let's say you spend like $20 on a drink, on a coffee, some gum, some Tic Tacs, whatever. Whatever the case may be. If you take like, let's say $20, right? It's blurry, but $20, multiply that by 30 days. That's $600 that you spend on blow money. If you
mm,
take $600, right, multiply that by 12, that's $7,200 that you blow on like junk.
mm.
You ready for this? It's gonna blow your mind. Let's take this, multiply by 20 years. That's 150,000 almost that you're blowing
Whoa.
on blow money. I mean,
Ooh.
what are we gonna do?
That's a lot of money
You
there.
see what I'm saying, Joe? Like that's how we like. I mean, because we don't talk about these financial, like this is how you become financially smart. Our topic today is becoming financially smart, and we don't realize the small habits that we do. It adds up. It's money, right? It's like minute after second after, like you want to get out of debt, but then again, you're driving back into debt because the small habits that we don't create now, right? So just
Mm.
another tip.
Yeah, so that just goes to show how like those small little changes can make a big impact
Big
on your life
difference.
long term. So
Absolutely.
ooh, so that's a big that was mind blowing for sure.
Absolutely.
150,000. Ooh, just right down the drain.
Right down the drain. Yeah, just for coffee and gum and whatever, chips and soda.
Yeah, yikes. So yeah, that just definitely makes me want to like change my whole spending habit and saving
Yeah.
habit. So so yeah, like with yesterday, we ended up instead of doing something expensive like going out, like we were gonna do like something like I don't know if you'll have like Top Golf in your
Oh
area
yeah,
or
absolutely,
okay,
absolutely.
yeah, so Top Golf or like doing something like axe throwing or something that would have been
Okay.
fun. But like some of those things like per hour cost a lot.
Oh
So
wow,
so
wow,
we were
yeah.
thinking like instead of like doing something like that, we just decided like we're just gonna have like a game night and like just go over to one of our friends' house and like just have just buy some pizzas and some
Yeah, yeah.
drinks and
Staying in versus going out. Oh, big difference. You can save a couple $100, couple thousand if it's a big group. But
yeah.
staying in, absolutely. If you like to go out and drink and hang out and eat good food, better to cook a like a hot pot or like a barbecue at home than spending too much.
Exactly. So that was like we did the game night and like I think we had a lot more fun doing game night, like just being in the house and getting to talk and reconnect compared to what we would have done. Like even though it would have been fun to like throw some axes or play some golf, but like
Exactly.
it would have been
Exactly.
like a little bit harder, and you only have like a time range, like 2 hour time period, and
Right.
you maybe don't have as much time to really get to catch up. The music's loud, and like I said, like we were mentioning, it costs a lot more money to go out. So I think like just staying in, it just made it like a whole lot more fun. Like it went a lot better than expected. Like just we were
Yeah.
thinking like we first were thinking like, oh, game night, like I don't know if it's gonna be as fun as like Top Golf, but then
Right.
it turned out being like probably the best idea yet.
Right. Right. Oh yeah. That's awesome.
So yeah, just thinking about that, like how we saved money and then we had an even better time than we would have had going to Top Golf or something like that.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
so if I could start making like better like habits like that, just like even staying at home or doing something like that, I think
Right.
it would take us a long way, take me a long way as far as getting to a better financially stable
Absolutely.
lifestyle instead of
Absolutely.
$150,000 going down the drain.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely.
So, so my last question that I have is kind of almost like, some advice when it comes to people that want to be more financially stable and like
Okay.
reaching their financial goals.
Right.
So I know you've mentioned a good bit already, but is there any more like advice that you could give to somebody that's like really wanting to pursue like their financial goals of being
Okay.
more stable?
So number one thing, basically, you have to sit down with like a licensed financial professional and kind of look at where you're heading. Because eventually in the modern world right now, you have a job, and the job gives you a 401k and some benefits. That's really it. Then you have a bank account. But there are so many different accounts and things that you can use out there. I mean, there are accounts out there that is, there's accounts out there where you can pay, like, you can take money out with no tax, no penalty. There are so many different accounts out there where you can leverage and you can use to grow your financial goal and your net worth. And when you don't sit down with somebody, you kind of miss out on the information because it's not on TV, it's not on Google. The moment you step outside, hey, save this, save 10%. We take our card and we spend it. We keep spending on every single time we step outside. We're trying to create a habit where we're teaching people how to put more money back into their bank, right? That's what I think. Even for our agency and everything like that, like one of the things that we our objective, right, is to really kind of show them a better place to put more money away. And the point is, I think this is like the great way to end the recording. Like saving right now versus saving later, it's going to cost you a lot of time and energy if you don't do anything in the next couple, basically now, as soon as you can. And you can realize that and say, man, if I say, like we talk about the needs and wants, we talk about like even just that blow money. We call it blow money because literally the moment you go outside, you're thirsty, but you had some water and some juice in the house, right? And you get what I'm saying, right? Like that convenience is where that's how the world is. So if we have a very good like mind where I want to be able to save, like I'm not going to spend money. Sometimes some people, they don't even take their wallets because they have such a bad spending habit. They don't want to take their wallet. But then again, guess what? We have iPhones now, and you can just tap. And that's also another, But anyway, the point is this: definitely the one big advice is definitely don't wait too late. Start as soon as possible. And like definitely sit down with somebody, look over your finances. Are you heading the right way? What are some of the things out there that you can use and you can utilize? There's so many companies out there that can help you, right? I would say the best thing to sit down with is somebody who doesn't work for one company. They have multiple companies because basically they can service you in many different ways.
I think, yeah, that's some really good advice, to give to, people like, especially with me that has never been to anybody like a financial planner or
Uh-huh.
nothing like that. Like probably the only people that I've ever been to, like as far as any kind of finance thing is probably like my high school teacher. And that was just for like
Oh wow.
a
Right.
grade or something like that. And that's been some years ago. So I think it's just really like a learning experience out of all of this, how important it is to have somebody to depend on when it comes to your finances more than just think that you could do it on your own because like, oh, I'm grown and I'm independent. But it's like, look where it gets us sometimes. Like when
Right,
we
right.
don't seek for help, then we kind of get ourselves into like a debt or like some kind of financial burden in some case, one way or
Exactly.
another. So
Exactly.
I think that's one really good advice, that we can all learn from is just,
Absolutely.
seek
Absolutely.
help because there's no like, when even when like, if we're thinking like seeking help for other things, like as far as, people that may go to like rehab, if they
Uh,
have like substance abuse or something like that,
absolutely.
like, there's no shame in help, even in something like this. Like,
Absolutely. No
even
way.
though
No
it's
way.
yeah, so
Yeah.
even though like the finance side is definitely not as drastic as like substance abuse, but still
Right,
there's
right,
no
right, right.
no shame,
Yeah.
in all of us viewers, to,
Yeah.
go ask for help. There's,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
we all
Like
need the help.
when somebody come into our offices, like what we do is basically kind of do like a financial checkup. It's like you go to the doctor, you get a medical checkup at once a year. We basically do the same thing where, I want to be able to like look at what you already have and how can we make your situation better, right? And that the whole conversation is about how can you make it better, and that's it. I mean, every family that I sit down with, like, like we are able to help them in a way that they feel good about their finances, instead of like, oh man, I'm in so much debt, I don't know what to do. But you can't stress out about money. Oh, you're gonna be end up in a hospital, you don't want to stress out. So there's ways around it. Of course, always reach out to anybody that or somebody who's licensed in many different states, have a lot of experience under their belt. And definitely they'll make sure you have a good good like a financial portfolio later on down the road, right? So, yep.
Yeah. Yeah, that's super important to like take in for sure, people. So, and I think, some people may have like the apprehensions of going to seek help, but like at the end of the day, like those people that are there, financial planners or advisors or whatever role they may be in,
Uh-huh.
the point of them being there is that they want to help you get into a better lifestyle of, with
Right.
your finances. They're not there to put more like stress on you or anything like that. They're almost like, like he was saying, you go to the doctor for a checkup, so why not go to like the financial doctors,
Doctor.
for the help, in that area. I think there's,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
nothing wrong with that. And I think it's really good to have, to have a, healthy financial lifestyle for
Absolutely.
sure.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. I think it's a good way. Like I was in a distress of my own finances, and I was like, wow, if people are in some of my situation, like we can relate. Like, my parents come from a middle class family. We don't really know a lot of like a lot of financial knowledge. But then again, like I thought it's important for like my family to understand money because of my kids and the next generation is going to be happening. So if I'm financially illiterate, then my kids are going to be, they say the rich get richer because they're financially educated, right? They know what they're doing. So if you're someone like that and something where you can kind of like learn something and you can teach your family too and help them, achieve financial success as well, right? So, yep.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that's really good, even to like for all of us, even in the younger generation, to do a lot more research in this area
Mhm.
because, like we're going to be all parents one day.
Oh
Some of
yeah.
us are
Oh
already
yeah.
parents. You have your children, you want your children to be financially smart because
Exactly.
if we're not being financially smart and they see the patterns that we do, and if
Right.
we're not like
Oh
not
yeah.
seeking help, it's just going to be like we're going to be in a bad, area when it comes to finances in the future.
Exactly.
So
Absolutely.
that research is super important. And
Absolutely. Oh yeah. I mean, I'm very happy. I'm glad that we did this because it really gonna create a more awareness. Especially this new year. It just started basically. Well, we're in February already, but it's definitely having a you want to be financially well off from 2022 to 2023, and every single year you want to go a step further, and not backward. So
yeah, so I think yeah, like how you talked about this is like we're in the new year, like we're kind of still at the beginning of the new year. I
yeah,
think that's a really good like New Year's resolution for people,
absolutely,
to have is
absolutely.
to get into like researching and like save your money, like save some of your money on the side, and
Mhm.
it's definitely nothing wrong with going out and having fun, but like
No, no,
don't
no.
make it like an every time thing to
Yep,
where
yep,
like your money you're going paycheck to paycheck and you're
yep.
barely getting through.
Oh,
So
tough,
don't ever do that,
tough, tough.
people. Let's do better. Like I can even
Exactly.
say that to myself. I'm speaking to myself here too, that I can definitely do better. I can definitely learn a lot from this, and I really did learn from this. So I definitely thank you for
Thank you.
being here today.
Absolutely. Anytime. No, anytime. I'm very happy. Thank you so much for having me, Joe. It's been great, spreading awareness, changing the world one podcast at a time.
Yes, absolutely. That's one big reason why I love doing these podcasts is to
Right, right.
bring awareness to topics that aren't being talked about enough. So, and
Exactly.
especially with one like this, is super important because it's
Oh
like
yeah.
a big part of our life. Money is like kind of what runs things, like runs our lives, but it's just something that we just got to manage a lot better in.
Exactly. Exactly. All
So,
right.
yes, absolutely. So, viewers, I am so glad that y'all were on here today, and thank you for watching. Or if you're not watching, if you're listening instead to the podcast streaming platforms like Spotify or Google Podcasts or wherever that may be, I appreciate your support there as well. So, anyways, everybody, I hope that y'all have a good rest of your day or night, depending on when you're watching or listening to this. And I will see y'all on the next episode of Not Your Average Joel. Talk to y'all later.
Bye
Thank
bye.
you, everybody, that took the time to listen to this episode of Not Your Average Joel. My podcast is available not only on YouTube, but also on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcast from. I also have an Instagram page where you can see outstanding moments, behind the scenes, and even a funny moment or two from each episode at Not Your Average Joel Podcast. If you want to get in contact with me, then my Instagram page is probably the best way to do so through direct messaging. I appreciate any kind of support that you have given to this channel, whether you are a guest or a listener to this podcast. Once again, I thank y'all so much, and I look forward to sharing more of my life with y'all on the next episode of Not Your Average Joel. Goodbye.